Hey, hey.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Terrence and Jill.
Yes, a God-Ordained union. If you clicked on this video, do I need a wife? You got what you want, because Terrence is going to share his waiting process when he was in the waiting room and he was considering marriage again. So,
yeah.
But before we get started,
we are Terrence and Jill, a God-Ordained union.
Yeah,
we've been married for just under 3 years.
Yeah,
and our vision, is to help increase kingdom marriages.
Yep. So that's what we do. We don't give marriage advice. We don't give relationship advice, but we do share our testimony. We do share our stories, but we also bring it back to the Word of God and what God says about it. We ain't get it all right. Like those of you who have watched our videos, we stumbled and fall, but God's grace and mercy kept us.
Yes.
And something that the enemy could have destroyed and messed up, God brought us together with his grace and mercy, because we believe that God's perfect will was for us to be together. And so if you are wondering where your person is and you're kicking and screaming and wondering what's wrong with me, we understand. I've been there. Terrence was there a little bit. He's going to share today. And so, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notifications. We go live every Tuesday.
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live, Q&A. And so, God's willing, we'll see you on this Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right. Without further ado, baby, the women wants to know, and I think some men too. We've had so many comments and questions about this. Like people want to know, what was your waiting season like? And especially as men, we don't ever hardly see what men go through when they are wondering and waiting for a wife or if they should get married. And so, we know that you were, let's pick it up from when you got divorced. You were divorced in 2006.
Yeah.
So share. How are you going to share it, baby?
Let me say this. We talk about in almost every video, Jill referenced that, I've been 16 years divorced before we met, but we don't go into those 16 years. So I will say this, a big part of the 16 years started before the 16 years, because what y'all don't know is I was also separated before that divorce was final for about 6 or 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were separated a very, very long time.
Okay.
And so that has a lot to do with the uncertainty and the things that I went through. Plus, I was in the military then, so I got recalled back for 9/11 and I was gone. So in the middle of all of that, all these crazy things are happening. And so just to get back to 2006, I've been back from 9/11 for maybe 3 years at that point. We figured out that we were not going to be able to save the marriage. So we went on through getting the divorce finalized, and it became final in 2006.
Okay.
So what happened from that point right there? Let me tell y'all something. What y'all seeing before you today on these videos is a happy-go-lucky person, but that is not always the case.
Wow.
Even myself, even back then, when God was working on me and said, I need to rebuild you. I need to rebuild you. There was times when I thought about suicide. There was times when I thought about taking myself out because I felt like I was such a big failure. See, what most of you don't know is when you are a part of a relationship that strong, that hard. One, we were high school sweethearts. Okay. Two, I was a big athlete. I went off in the military. I played ball in 3 different countries, representing the United States in the military. So I did a lot of things where individually I had a lot of accolades, but I saw a lot of relationships go down when I was in the service. So I got out of the service, not because I didn't like it. I got out because I knew I was already engaged and I didn't want to give my marriage a situation where we wasn't going to make it. So I got out of the service. I ended something that I love, which was an identity. I learned later that was a part of my identity at the time. I gave all that up and I came home. Almost like I came home to be like a house husband because she was a professional then. She had a job that she worked. And so she had an identity. So people saw her all the time. So it got to a point where my identity was attached to the marriage. And so when it didn't work, it was like, what am I going to do? Everybody knows me as this person's husband, you know, these kids' father, you know, now that's the biggest failure in my life at that point. So I went through some years. I don't want to say I went through a big depression, but there was a point where I was depressed. There was a point where, like I said, I thought about suicide. You know, I thought about that. I felt, you know what, there's enough life insurance on me now. If I was taken out, at least I know they'd be taken care of. That's huge.
Yes.
So God went into a rebuilding stage for me. And that rebuilding took, when I say it took about 10 years or so, it took about 10 years of me working on my speech, what type of words I wanted to use, going from looking at things from a negative standpoint to seeing the positive out of everything. And even to this day, that's my personality. I don't care what we go through. I'm going to find something positive to pull out of it. But that wasn't always the case. I had to learn how to do that.
What about Miss Montrose?
Miss Montrose is she was a woman that took my mother's place in my first wedding because my mother had already passed, and she was a neighbor. Her son and I graduated from high school together, and he went into the Navy. I went into the Marine Corps. So we've been thick as thieves for a lot. I mean, like I said, high school buddies. I mean, that was my dog. But anyway, so she took the role as like a spiritual mom for me. And there was a point where she was teaching Bible study. And I went to that Bible study and I started getting this one-on-one time with her because it started out to be a group. And over time, people just start dropping off and stop coming. And it got to a point where it was just me and her. And what I appreciate about that time was that she was able to give me one-on-one mentorship. Her whole life was like in the Bible. She was one of those people that was unapologetic, you know, praising God all the time, to the point to where sometimes you get uncomfortable because you're like, oh my God. But that's how she was. And she was the same every day that I saw her. So that helped me grow tremendously in the word. That also fed my thirst. I didn't realize how much I had a thirst for the word. And so that was really an important time in my life. That really helped the foundation of me saying, now I understand the different books of the Bible. I understand how to research what topics I want to dive into, things that I needed. So that helped me out tremendously. But I would say somewhere around 2016, 2017.
Now, all that time you were still dating?
All that time I was dating, but here's the thing. As God is developing me, and I'm glad you brought that question up because it is a very important point in my life. I was in only a few relationships, probably in a 10-year span, maybe just a couple. But what that few years did and those relationships did, it helped me understand as God was developing me, what type of person, what type of man I wanted to be. And so what I was doing was not necessarily thinking about marriage, but what I was saying is, if I'm not going to marry a woman, as soon as I found out or figured out that she's not the one, I'm not staying in a relationship. Because I felt like without marriage, there's no reason to date. So there's no need for me to just go through the motions of being with somebody if I'm not planning on building long-term forever. So I say that to say, as I was going through those few relationships, as soon as something came up that I thought, nope, she ain't the one, I kid y'all not, I said, we need to have a conversation. And the base of the conversation was basically me saying, deuces.
Wow.
You ain't the one. There's no need for me to spend another minute with you.
Wow.
Not
Ladies,
that I'm trying to be rude, but
listen.
I need to make sure if I'm going to spend time with you, in my mind, in my heart, there's still an opportunity that says she could be the one. And I would fight for that person through everything. But I'm not spending time with somebody that I'm being told or I'm being led or my belief is she ain't the one. There's no need for me to be with you. I don't want to sleep with you and have a baby that now I got to deal with you for 18 years. All those things are saying, nope, if she ain't the one, deuces. And
wow.
That's what I was doing. And like I said, it was only 2 or 3 relationships in that 10-year period, but it's because they were spread out, but 2, it was really seriously about, okay, get up to a point, this something would happen, and it's like, do you really want to put up with that? I mean, do you have to put up with that? No, she ain't my wife. I ain't got to be here. Is this something that was a one-time incident, or is this something that's going to keep coming up over and over again? Yeah, that's going to keep coming up. Deuces. And I would end it.
Wow.
So yeah, but I'm learning about who I am. I'm learning that, you know what? Men have been told no by women our whole life. What I learned was women wasn't used to being told no by men. That's when I started.
Because men will stay in it.
Men will be like, look, she said no. We just learned at a very young age. She said no, just go to the next person. Somebody's going to say yes. Everybody ain't going to say no. So we just learned, baby, would you like to dance? No. Okay. Would you like to dance? No. Okay. There's a whole group of women over there on that wall. Somebody want to dance, but women wasn't used to that. So when women start approaching me, I started living in Charlotte for a while. And Charlotte is a whole lot bigger city than where I grew up. But I learned that the women in Charlotte, they don't mix their words. They are aggressive. So as they started coming up to me saying, hey, I'd like to get to know you. Would you like to go out on a date? And I'm like, nope, nope, nope. Oh, they start calling me everything. That's when I realized there was an issue. I was being called, I was gay. I was told I was scared. I was told I couldn't handle them. They was calling me everything except a child of God, just because I was telling them that I didn't have an interest in wanting a relationship or taking them out to eat or whatever. But that also helped me grow into the man that I'm in today, to where things don't shock me a lot now. Things don't impress me to the point where I jump up and holler every time something great happens. And I don't get the real lows when things don't go well. I kind of stay in the middle.
Yeah.
So
because I don't mean to interrupt you, but you got to realize you all only see Terrence from this point up. But Terrence is he'd rather be in a suit, but he's a shirt and tie guy, carry himself, very military, very 6 feet, very he carries himself like confidence and so he is attractive. Like he is a very attractive guy. Like he walks debonair. He carries himself like with very much confidence. And so I could understand like those years that you were basically going through your healing, women were like approaching you and you were saying no, deuces. Wow.
Yeah, and they just took it negatively, thinking that either I was trying to say I was too good or there was something wrong with them. And a lot of times I was trying to explain, it has nothing to do with you. God has got me on a whole nother trajectory right now. And thinking about another woman is not in the plans. I need to focus on me. And so, really wasn't saying anything negatively about anybody.
So what happened?
So as we get towards 2016, 2017, I'm in a relationship and I'm selling cars and I'm about to come back down off the mountain. Because at that time, what happened was my kids had went to college and I moved to the mountains to be closer to my daughter's college. My son decided he wanted to come stay with me. So we're all in the mountains here in North Carolina. And we are up there near the school. We're having fun. Me and my son are working together. We're living together. My daughter's at this college about maybe 45 minutes from us. But we were up there doing our thing. And they got to the point to where she was about to graduate. So it was time for us to come home. So we came back off the mountain. I'm in a relationship that had been rocky. And I told y'all that I was in like a 2-year relationship before.
There's a video.
So this is the relationship that I'm referring to now. I'm in that relationship. We're coming off the mountain. It's been rocky a little bit. But at the same token, I have been having thoughts about how much I want to still commit to this relationship, because it hadn't been going. It wasn't like it was all great. We having these issues. I'm not realizing that she's not the one, because I'm focused on proving to her that I'm not like all the other men that she's dated. So things are happening that she's doing that necessarily should have been deuces early. But because I had already committed and walked into this situation that she was in, thinking I'm going to prove her wrong and show her that there are men that will treat her right, it's almost every time she did something that I normally would have said deuces to, it's like, no, you got to prove to her that you're not just going to run and leave her. And so I'm just accepting all this crazy mess in my life that I don't need to. And the whole time God is trying to tell me, that ain't the one. Let her go. Let her go. And I finally get the message the day that me and her get into it and my son is with me. And so was the last conversation I had with her. That's when I was able to say deuces, because I didn't want him to feel like he needed to put up with stuff like that in his relationship. So I made that stand, got out of that relationship, and then I started really having my time with God. And that was just before, probably 6 months or so before I saw her. And so when I see her, it's like, who is she? Where'd she come from?
Well, let's go back, because there's a big discrepancy.
Okay.
I mean, for whatever reason, a lot of y'all are bothered that how it went was that so you were out of that relationship. Mm-hmm. It's safe to say by the beginning of 2018.
Yes.
I came across your profile on that dating site in the summer of 2018. Mm-hmm. The summer of 2018. But you were out of that relationship. You was in seeking God mode. Right. 6 months after I saw your profile, it was like January of 2019. Mm-hmm. I went to your DM on Facebook and I reached out to you, and we agreed to have a conversation by phone, but you never contacted me again.
Right.
It never happened.
Right.
And we joke and say you ghosted me, but now in all actuality, you just was not in the frame of mind. Like, you were out of a relationship and what were you doing? Like, you were focused on God.
Yeah, because we need to explain this so y'all can get off this topic.
That he ghosted me.
Okay, I did not ghost her. At the time, one of the things that I had did previously that I didn't mention because it had nothing to do with relationships was that I was in a company, a multi-level marketing company, and I was really, really, really on social media big. Everything, shooting videos, putting messages out there, all this stuff. It got so bad that in the time frame of me doing that, it got to a point where even my family, they see me, they like walk across the street. It's like, oh, here comes Terrence, he's gonna sell us something. So when that part of my life ended in 2014, one of the things I said I needed to do was recreate myself, so I can start having a regular relationship with people, my friends, my family, and they not run thinking that I'm going to sell them something every single time they saw me. So I wanted to reestablish those relationships. And in doing so, I got off of social media. I said, I'm not going to get on Facebook. Every now and then I would just get on and just stroll just to see what comments people put, or just to see what new friend invites I got or whatever. But it was nothing where I was on there for hours a day like I used to be. It was just a matter of just touching bases and then jumping back off. So when she sent me the message, when I got the message and read it, and I sent her a message back saying, you know what? You deserve a conversation. And so we agreed to have a conversation. But again, I'm not on social media like that. So after I sent that message to her, I meant well. I meant, yes, I would like to have a conversation with you. But because I'm not on social media, forgot all about that.
And so people are misinterpreting that as you were not interested. Then all of a sudden you were interested.
No, what happened was, because the only time I saw that picture is whenever I got back on Facebook or something and scrolling, and I would see that. Because at the time, when I first saw it, I didn't realize how her picture got there, because I didn't remember sending her a friend request. I didn't remember her sending me one. But that's neither here nor there. The thing is, I went back months later. When I say months later, almost a year later, I went back and I saw her picture again. And I said, wow, where'd this woman come from? So now I go in and I see that we done sent each other a message. She done DM'd me. I done responded. And I'm looking at the date and I'm like, oh, you have a kid. I didn't have that conversation. Oh, she cussed me out. And so now I'm thinking, I need to get in contact with her, because I need to apologize for not having that conversation with her almost a year ago.
Okay, so that's cleared up.
So that's cleared up.
So going back to, you're out of the relationship, and so how do we get to the title, Do I Need a Wife?
Here's how that came about. Now that I'm not in a relationship, what I'm starting to say is, because again, I got friends that are asking me throughout all this time, dude, are you ever going to get me remarried? Have you considered getting remarried? And when I first used to get that question, it used to always be the same answer, which is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what God has in cards for me. Eventually, it got to a point where one of the things I do recognize is, when I was in some of these other companies, is that the people that was knocking it out the park, the people that was having success, the people that was like really doing their thing were married. And I don't know why, but God pointed that out to me, that look, all these people up there has a person next to them on their arm, and they're doing it.
You needed a wife.
That's when I start thinking, shoot, I need me a wife. That's crazy.
You need to help me.
I was like, that's because I didn't understand what I wasn't doing right, because I was really having a blast in these companies, but I just hadn't got over this line to where I became to this one position that everybody was pushing for. And I just kept thinking, what's the difference in me and these guys up there? And God pointed out, said, look, every one of them got a wife up there with them. They ain't doing it by themselves. They got to help me. And I was like, oh, that's just crazy. And then I started to, Lord, well, do you have somebody for me? Because I'm not just going to get married for the sake of getting married. That was never my thing. And because I've already failed at it, I didn't want to take a chance of destroying somebody else's life if I was doing something wrong. So I wanted to know that, well, Lord, if you got somebody in mind, I'm open to it, but I just don't want to be anybody. It's got to be the one. And that's where I started really going back and reading a little bit and learning that, you know what? God actually ordains marriage. And the word says he has someone suitable for me. So it's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I can actually get one just made just for me. See, now we talking about something totally different. We talk about something totally different. So then my conversation with God is changing. It's starting to say, Lord, look, you've been with me from day one. You shown me over and over and over again. You've never left me by myself, even when I didn't know you was there. So I trust you. And I trust you enough that if I'm going to do this, I need to know that this is the one you got for me. I done dated, and evidently the ones that I chose for me was not right. So for whatever shape or form, whatever reason, I didn't pick the right one. So I don't even want to pick. I need you to say, that's her right there. And I know for a fact she's the one you have for me. And that's where those conversations started. That's where those prayers started. That's when we started giving him time. So a lot of my time in God's waiting room was me having one-on-one time with God, just saying, Lord, look, if you don't have somebody for me, I'm okay. It just being me and you. I just want to know. So I don't have to keep looking around thinking that I'm going to bump up into somebody that I'm supposed to be with. And so that's how those conversations started to come about. And the whole time, I wasn't necessarily looking for a wife, but I just felt like there was a whole nother level of people living for men that had a wife. And I didn't have one. So I wanted to know why they was having so much success in life that I wasn't having. And I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted me one. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want anyone. I wanted the one.
Mm-hmm. So how did you find the one?
Found the one. Because she put herself on my page. And here's the one thing that I am really receptive to now is that I know God don't make mistakes. I know God don't do things just for the sake of doing it. He has a reason and a purpose behind everything he does. And we just have to sometimes give into understanding out of our own.
Right.
And that's what I kept saying, Lord, I probably don't understand. I don't understand, but I trust you. Mm-hmm. So whatever you have, whatever you're doing, I'm cool with it. Either way, I'm cool with it. And as soon as I said that whatever you have for me, I'm going to be okay with. If you got a wife for me, or if it's just going to be me and you, I'm rocking with you from here on out. Whatever you have for me, I'm going to be okay with. And that's when I've noticed that I didn't answer her, and I sent her those white roses. And from that point on, it's been history. Y'all know everything from that point on. But when I sent her those white roses, and I'm expecting to get cursed out because it's been a minute, and she didn't curse me out.
I was receptive.
I was like, oh.
I said, hey, hi. You sure you're reaching out to the right person?
Reaching out to the right person? And I was like, yep.
Wow.
And from that point on,
your whole life changed. Your whole life went to the next level.
It did. It changed everything. Wow. And I'll be one of those people right now to tell any man, look, I don't care how much success you have. I don't care how much success you've ever had. Until you find you a wife, there's a whole nother level of living that God has for us if we are submissive to his will and do his will and not our own. Mm-hmm. And by doing his will, for most of us, I can't say it'll be for everybody, but for most of us, it includes us having a wife. Because God made us the head of the family, and we can't have a family without a wife. So I'm here to tell you,
you need a wife.
If you are a guy, you need to go find your wife. You need to speak to God and say, where's she at? Where's she at? You need to put a scope on that rifle so you can see further out than you can with your own eyes. You need to be able to look around because there are levels to living. There are levels to living. And there's no comparison in a man that is successful by himself and a man that has a wife. Wow. I didn't even say a successful man with a wife. I just said a man with a wife. Because there's something to be said about having someone to share life with. It's on a whole nother level.
Wow. So you need a wife.
I got me one. And I ain't letting her go. Oh. I ain't letting her go. Fellas, you gotta get you a wife. The Bible says that it's not good for man to be alone.
Wow.
There's a whole nother level to living if you had a wife.
Right. I guess one of the other biggest points to take away, ladies, from this video, is that you could be dating someone that's in the season that Terrence was in those first 10 years, where he was still healing. He was still, and that's why I always say, sometimes you should not jump into the first thing you may want to ask a guy is, when was his last relationship? Because you may not want to jump in, into something with someone who is just fresh out of a relationship, because there is some healing and some closure that needs to take place, that you don't want to find yourself, and talking about how God say that's the one, or God will not put you in with someone that is out of season. And so yeah, you really want to, that's one of the things that I would say be cautious about, is if I was to give some type of advice, is, when was the last time he was in a relationship? Because there's some residue that could still be there. So
I would agree with that too, because I would say this. One, whenever you come out of a relationship, whether it was a good one or a bad one, please do some introspection. You need to look back and say, what did I do? What did I learn? Because there's no need to go into another relationship if you can't take into that relationship what you learned from the last one. Right. That's how you get closer from one relationship to the next, to getting to the person you're supposed to be with. If you're just going through learning the same lesson over and over and over again, that's insane. Right. That's insanity. Right. And you don't want to do that. You want to grow from relationship to relationship. That ain't something that I've thought about, but now we're having me go back and think about where I was and what I was going through. Yeah, we need to date with the purpose of understanding that we need to grow from one relationship to the next. Right. We shouldn't miss an opportunity to become a better person, but we also shouldn't miss the opportunity to get closer to where God wants us to be. Right. And by growing and having these moments of reflection on ourselves, not to say what the other person did wrong, or what did you learn from this yourself? Right. And you should be able to point out something specifically that you can carry with you that's positive enough to say, I wasn't this type of person, or I wasn't sensitive to this, or I wasn't that, and now I understand that I need to be, or I'm growing into this. And that way you can be a better person for the next one. So when you get to that right person, you have these lessons that you've learned over the years that's going to benefit you. Rather than you sit there and say, well, I didn't know all this, but dude, you've been in 100 relationships and you didn't know that? You didn't take the lessons from it. You didn't take the lessons? And I love that you, I don't mean to cut you off, but when you always say that you didn't say what she did wrong, like from your first marriage, you didn't say what she would, you took the lessons, and that was one of the things that really attracted me to you, because you never talked bad about your ex. You've always talked, and so whatever happened in that relationship, you took the lessons. And, I think in every relationship and every disagreement, there's two people that had to participate. None of us got in an argument with ourselves. It was always with another person. Right. So I always just said, you know what, whether it's good or bad, I need to own my participation in that particular situation that got me to where I am now. Right. And that's what I did. I just owned my portion of it. And because I can't make nobody else want to learn, want to change, want to get better, want to whatever that. I have nothing to do with that. Right. So that's what I do, is focus on me. The other thing that I would tell people is, it made a difference, I believe, in my season when I had that conversation with God, when I finally said, if you have somebody for me, whomever that person is, I'm okay with it. But if you don't, and it's just going to be me and you, then I'm rocking with that too. Right. And I think that made a difference, because right after that is when I saw your picture again. Wow. It's like I was saying, I tried it my way. It didn't work. I've dated other women since then. They haven't worked. So the only common denominator I know of is me. So I need to get out of God's way and ask God if he has somebody for me, if it was meant for me to be married. And then be patient and let him do what he do.
Right. All right, there you go, ladies. You wanted to hear what Terrence's waiting season was like. And it's safe to say you didn't really have a waiting season. So Terrence, God showed me him, when God showed him me, Terrence made the move. So so yeah. So there you have
so
it.
Sometimes you just have to realize that although God, and we've mentioned this before, although God is working on you, he's also working on the other people. And you have to give that time to take. It's like playing chess. You just can't jump sometimes 2 or 3 moves ahead because you see it. You got to let God bring the other person around. So when he connects y'all time and say from now on, y'all's timing is the same. From that point on, then it's like, okay, he knows me. He knows I get off work at this time and he's going to call me at this time. But up until then, you don't know that stuff.
Right.
So you get mad because you met somebody and he hadn't said nothing, but God told you he's the one. Doesn't mean the guy isn't the one sometimes. It just means that maybe God is still working on him to get him to the position to where he can come up to you and say, hey, I'm the one. Up to that point, you don't know what he's going through.
And you don't know what God is doing.
So stop prejudging. And start praying. Just pray, because prayer will change things.
Yes. And we are living witness.
So I thank you guys for spending time with us.
Yes.
I hope I gave a little bit more clarity. I know I'm not good on details as she is, but I pray that this has been helpful to somebody.
All right.
And with that said, we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.
Deuces.